What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we were talking about the buy low players that you're either going to want to target in trades or add them for a bounce back. I talked about a decent amount of these players in one of my most recent videos, but I have some new players on this list that you're going to want to listen to. And I also wanted to give you guys some more data to back up why these players are going to bounce back. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Before we get into the video, I just want to let you guys know that I am recording this on Wednesday night. I just finished watching the Oilers and Kraken game. And the reason I'm telling you this is because whether a player is a buy low option or not can change very quickly. Valeri Nichushkin just put up 2 goals. You probably can't buy low on him anymore. This is why you should follow me on Twitter, because I tend to give up-to-date information on players that I think you should add or trade for on there. So make sure you follow me at FIREDUP Fantasy. What I'm trying to tell you guys is that if you're watching right now on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, some of the players on this list may no longer be buy low options. We've seen this with players like Pavel Buchnevich, a guy that I've been telling you guys to buy low on for the past 2 or 3 weeks. He had a hat trick and then he followed that up with a 2-point night. So you probably can't buy low on him anymore. There's a good chance that some of the players on this list, like I said, could have some big nights in the next 4, 5, or 6 days. So definitely target a lot of these players in trades or add them for the bounce back. And just quickly, I wanted to flex a little bit. No big deal, but one of my teams in the $11 Drafters NHL Best Ball Championship is currently in first place. Listen, it's early on. I know it's going to change, but just a little bit of a flex. It's cool to see my name at the top of the leaderboard and also the $2,000 USD grand prize beside it. We'll see how it changes, guys, because if you're looking at this team right here, there's some guys that are definitely overperforming. Kyle Connor, JT Miller, Sam Reinhart, Quinn Hughes. But yeah, I mean, I like the team. We'll see how it plays out. If you guys drafted alongside with me or you just drafted by yourself, make sure you follow along with your team. See how your team is doing. You can go into Drafters and check the standings after every night. It updates after literally every goal or assist or shot. And yeah, it's fun to root for the players that are on your team. So that's always fun. And also, if you guys like gambling or pick'ems, you guys can use my promo code FIREDUP and they will match it 100%. Up to $100 with a $20 deposit. So 20 gets you 40, 100 gets you 200. It's pretty fun to do, guys. Gamble responsibly, but I've been doing these pick'ems and they are a lot of fun. With that out of the way, let's talk about some buy low players, guys. We have a lot of great options on this list, and right now we're talking about forwards. This is the tier 1 list, so this is the upper echelon of buy low options that you're going to want to target in trades as soon as possible. If you don't understand this table, let me explain. We have current shooting percentage, career shooting percentage, and then current 82 game pace. When we're talking about shooting percentage, it's pretty simple. When players have a low shooting percentage compared to their career rate, it usually means that it's going to come back to normal or regress to the mean. This is because these players are likely shooting the puck a ton and luck's just not going their way. And then the opposite can be said for players with a very high shooting percentage. So a player like Brock Besser, who has like a 30% shooting percentage, he's not shooting the puck a lot. So it's unlikely that that production is going to be sustainable and that shooting percentage is going to be sustainable either. So overall, the shooting percentages that you're seeing right here are not sustainable. You're going to see it get closer and closer to the career rate as the season progresses. These players are going to score a lot of goals very soon. So if you buy low on them, you're going to reap the rewards. Lastly, with 82 game pace, it's pretty simple as well. You'll see a player like Mika Zibanejad. Right now, he's on pace for 11 goals and a total of 58 points. And if you're looking at his last couple of seasons, he has been nowhere near that. So this is a good indication that this player is just underperforming and they're probably going to bounce back pretty soon. We have Connor McDavid. He just had a goal and an assist against the Kraken, but if you're looking at his 82 game pace, he's not going to put up 25 goals and 88 points, okay? It's way too low. His shooting percentage is much lower than his career rate as well. He's going to bounce back. It's simple as that. Next up is Mika Zibanejad, and this might be the best buy low option in my opinion because of how poorly he is doing. 5.1% compared to a 13.2% career rate. Very low, guys. He is going to come back to normal. Then we look at his 82 game pace here, 11 goals and 58 points. Does that sound like Mika Zibanejad to you? I don't think so. Then we have Kirill Kaprizov, and this is another guy who is definitely a good buy low option. He's had a couple of good games recently, but 8.9% shooting percentage compared to a 15.6% career rate. Far too low. That's going to come back to normal. And 27 goals and 82 points is not normal for Kaprizov either. He's a 100-point player, and I expect him to get back to that range. Then next we have Tim Stützle of the Ottawa Senators. And what I will say is that if you're looking at his 82 game pace of 107 points, this is obviously incredible. So he's not really a buy low in that regard. However, his goal scoring has not been very good. 7.7% shooting percentage compared to a 13.7 career rate. And he's on pace for 18 goals. So not sustainable. He's going to start scoring more. And I'm sure his season rank is definitely lower than it should be and what it will end up being. So if you can trade for him, I suggest you do. Then we have Jason Robertson, and I understand, guys, he has bounced back in the last week or two. I've told you guys to buy low on him for the past 3 weeks, and he's finally starting to play like his former self. However, I had to include him on this list still because his shooting percentage is still much lower than his career rate. His 82 game pace of 27 goals and 76 points is not very good either. So maybe you can get a deal for him still. I don't know how much value you are going to get in a buy low situation with the last couple of games that he's had, but still try it out and see if it works. Then we have Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. I understand he's getting older. I understand the Capitals are no longer one of the best teams in the NHL. I mean, they have a pretty decent record in the standings right now, but I understand the sentiment. But if you're looking at his shooting percentage, 7.1% compared to a 12.9% career rate, definitely not sustainable in my opinion. Then we have 23 goals and 64 points as his 82 game pace right now. In no way does Ovechkin only put up 23 goals this year, guys. Buy low on Ovechkin, it's simple as that. Then we have Jordan Kyrou, and this is another player that's marked in purple because he has bounced back. He had a 3-point night the other night. He just put up 2 goals in his last game. I told you guys to buy low on Jordan Kyrou. He's a notoriously slow starter, started slow last year, but still, his 82 game pace is very low, 23 goals and 52 points. And his shooting percentage is 7.5% compared to a 13.1% career rate. So basically, Jordan Kyrou should still be bouncing back further. He's going to score more goals very soon. I still think you can get some value, so trade for him before it's too late. Next, we have Kevin Fiala of the Los Angeles Kings. He is on pace for 82 points this year, which is decent, but the reason he's a buy low candidate is because he has not scored a lot of goals. He has 2 goals in 14 games, which has given him a shooting percentage of 5.7%, which is compared to a career rate of 11.2. There's obviously room for a bounce back here, especially if you're looking at his 82 game pace for goals. It's currently sitting at 11 right now, and there's no way that happens, guys. I mean, Fiala's been a consistent 30-plus goal scorer in the last 2 seasons. He's also a guy that is a notoriously slow starter. I remember on Minnesota, he started off super slow, so I'm still very high in Kevin Fiala, and I think you should buy low on him before it's too late. Next, we have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and even though I expected a lot of regression from him going into the season, I think right now, at this point, he's a pretty good buy low candidate. His 82 game pace right now is 17 goals and 58 points, but he's been a pretty consistent 65 to 75 point player if we're looking at 82 game pace over the last couple of seasons. So I think he has room to bounce back, especially if you're looking at his shooting percentage. And like I said, his 82 game pace is too low. So buy low on Nugent-Hopkins if you can. He's still on the best power play in the league, or what should be the best power play in the league in the Edmonton Oilers. So I think he has potential still. Finally, we have Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild. And even though he's on pace for 82 points right now, which would be a career season, he's not putting the puck in the net. His shooting percentage is only 4.2% compared to a 12% career rate. So expect this to come back to normal. He's on pace for 10 goals this year, which is not sustainable. He is a guy that I think can put up 35 goals this year, so buy low on him before it's too late. Next up, we have more buy low forwards. Definitely a tier below the last list, but still some good options. What I will say is that some of these players, you're definitely not going to be trading for them unless you're in a super deep league. Players like Trevor Zegras, Barrett Hayton, Elias Lindholm, Matty Beniers, they could easily be sitting on your waiver wire, but I did want to highlight them because their current low production is unsustainable and they should bounce back soon. To start off this list, we have Dylan Cousins of the Buffalo Sabres. I definitely still have my concerns with Dylan Cousins, as I talked about in one of my most recent videos, but if we're looking at his 82 game pace, it's pretty low, 17 goals and a total of 46 points, and his shooting percentage is also pretty low. I mean, 9.1%, not too low compared to his career rate, but definitely much lower than last season. He's a young player that has a lot of potential, so I do expect him to bounce back. And also, Tage Thompson is now out 4 to 6 weeks, so we're going to see Cousins on that first line power play, at least for the short term. My main concern is that when everybody was healthy, they bumped him down to the second unit. So hopefully when everybody comes back, Cousins can manage to stay on that. If he's not on the first unit, then yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to have a down year, but we'll have to see what happens. Next up, we have Andrei Svechnikov, and this one's pretty simple. He tore his ACL last year and couldn't train or play hockey at all for a long time. He just returned 2 weeks ago, and of course, he has started off super slow. I mean, this was to be expected with the rust that is going to come with not playing hockey for that long. He's on pace for 0 goals and 41 points. Very small sample size, but this is not a type of season that you're going to see from Andrei Svechnikov. He's a young player, consistent 30-goal scorer, 60 to 70-point player, puts up a lot of shots and hits. Right now, he's not on the first-line power play, but I expect him to get better deployment very soon. They're just easing him into playing hockey again. So if you can get a good deal for Andrei Svechnikov, I suggest you do. Next up, we have Patrick Laine at the Columbus Blue Jackets, a 10% shooting percentage compared to a 14.6% career rate. That should come back to normal. And what really stands out is his 82-game pace. He is only on pace for 35 points in a full season. It's not sustainable whatsoever, guys. He's been a point-per-game player on the Blue Jackets in the past 2 seasons, so I expect him to get back to this range. Next up, we have another Blue Jacket, Johnny Gaudreau. I understand he has been absolutely terrible this year, but we have to look at the numbers. Right now, he's on pace for 5 goals and a total of 30 points. Do we really think Johnny Gaudreau is going to end up with these numbers? No. His shooting percentage is 2.6% compared to a career rate of 12.3. Come on, guys. This is not sustainable whatsoever. Even though he's probably going to have a down year, this is still a guy who's been a consistent 70 to 80 point player his whole career. This is just a slump for whatever reason. I don't have the answers for why he's slumping so hard, but this is a simple buy low. I mean, this is pretty much clear as day that he is going to bounce back. So if you can get a good deal for Johnny Gaudreau, or if he's been dropped, I suggest you either trade for him or you add him. Next up, as you guys can see, I crossed off Brock Nelson and Valeri Nichushkin. Brock Nelson just scored again tonight, so his shooting percentage is pretty in line with his career rate. He's on pace for like 37 or 38 goals now, so probably can't buy low on him. I still like him as a trade target because he's pretty undervalued, but again, you're not going to get that good of a deal for him. Then we have Nichushkin crossed out because as I was recording this, he just put up 2 goals tonight. I told you guys to add him in my most recent Week 6 schedule guide video because Lehkonen is out long-term with an injury, so Nichushkin's back on the first-line power play. I hope you guys added him, but yeah, you probably can't get a deal for him anymore. Finally, for this tier list, we have 4 more players. Probably guys you're not trading for unless you're in a super deep league, but they are surely going to bounce back, so definitely keep an eye out for them or add them for the bounce back. We have Trevor Zegras, and I understand he's injured right now. I don't know how long he's going to be injured for, but his shooting percentage is 3.3% compared to an 11.2% career rate, and he's currently on pace for 6 goals and a total of 13 points. Come on, guys, this is not sustainable. Definitely buy low in Trevor Zegras. Then we have Barrett Hayden, and this one's pretty obvious as well. 3.2% shooting percentage compared to a 10.1% career rate. He's on pace for 5 goals and a total of 16 points. Barrett Hayden was a second-half player last year, and he's still on the top line and on the top-line power play, so this is a very easy buy low. Then we have Elias Lindholm, 5% shooting percentage compared to a 12.3% career rate. He is on pace for only 10 goals right now. I understand the Flames are definitely struggling this year, and they're probably going to continue to struggle, but he's still averaging more than 20 minutes a night. He's on the top-line power play. The numbers tell the story, guys. He will bounce back. And then we have Matty Beniers. This is a guy that could be going through a little bit of a sophomore slump, but look at his shooting percentage, 3.8% compared to a 14.6% career rate. Only on pace for 5 goals and 35 points. I don't think that's sustainable, especially considering how talented Beniers is. So definitely buy low on him or add him for the very soon bounce back. Finally, we have the last batch of buy low forwards. And like I said, for some of the players in the last section, you're not going to be trading for these guys unless you're in a super, super deep league. They're probably just sitting on your waiver wire, and I'm not telling you guys to add them, but they are going to bounce back soon. So I thought I'd mention it. Jake DeBrusk, Rickard Rakell, and Anders Lee. Look at their shooting percentages, guys, especially if you compare it to their career rate. It's way too low. Their 82-game pace, Jake DeBrusk, 5 goals and a total of 29 points. Like, come on. I mean, Jake DeBrusk, I understand it's frustrating. He's not on the first-line power play, but last year, he actually got less ice time per game than this year. So I am expecting DeBrusk to still have a decent season. Rakell, not on the first-line power play, definitely concerning as well, but I think he can get back on there potentially. Not a guarantee, but even if he doesn't, this production is not sustainable. So keep an eye out for Rakell. He should be putting up points soon. Then we have Anders Lee, another guy who's not on the first line power play. He got bumped off. Right now, Kyle Palmieri is on there. Could very likely change, but it's pretty obvious that Anders Lee is not going to finish with 5 goals and a total of 11 points. So expect him to put up some points soon. Also, I just want to highlight 4 players that are in some slumps right now. This was to be expected with their shooting percentages and their production, but you might be able to get some pretty good value for them. Not telling you to trade for them, but this is all about value, guys. Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, Jonathan Marchessault, and Travis Konechny. Next up, we have Buy Low defensemen. There's not too many players on this list because some guys have already bounced back. Roman Josi, a guy I told you guys to trade for, he's definitely bounced back. Miro Heiskanen is still on this list, but you could have got way better value for him about a week or 2 ago. I've been telling you guys to trade for him for the past couple of weeks, so I hope you did. But let's list this off, guys. First off, we have John Carlson, who I probably think is the best buy low option on this list. 1, he's very underrated, and 2, the numbers support that he should bounce back. He has a current shooting percentage of 3.4% compared to a 6.4% career rate, and he's only on pace for 5 goals. Carlson's been a consistent 10 to 20 goal scorer and a 60 to 70 point player. The Capitals are no longer one of the best teams in the NHL, but he's still getting 26 minutes a night, a lot of power play time. He's only 33, so it's not like he's way past his prime. I think he is going to bounce back, and you probably can get pretty good value for him, so trade for Carlson before it's too late. Next up, we have Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars, and like I said earlier, it's probably hard to buy low on him now because he's had some big nights recently, but I still had to include him on this list because there could be some more room for bounce back. What I mean by this is that his shooting percentage is still 3% compared to a career rate of 5.2. He's only on pace for 5 goals, so I think he's gonna start scoring more goals soon. If you can get a good deal for Heiskanen still, I suggest you do it. Next up is Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and this is pretty simple. He's been a consistent 15 to 20 goal scorer as a defenseman in the NHL, but right now he's not scoring a lot of goals, so I am expecting him to bounce back. The numbers show this as well. 2.8% shooting percentage right now compared to a 7.1% career rate. Only on pace for 5 goals as well. Line is now back and healthy. I think Fantilli's going to break out soon. And I also think Gaudreau is going to bounce back. So this should definitely help the power play, which has struggled on the Blue Jackets. That's going to help Werenski. This production right now is unsustainable in my opinion. So buy low on Werenski. Next up is Seth Jones of the Chicago Blackhawks, and I'm not saying that he is going to have some crazy bounce back. What I am saying is that he currently has 0 goals in 13 games, and he's been a consistent 10 to 15 goal scorer in the NHL, so I am expecting him to start scoring more goals soon. If your league doesn't count plus minus, but it counts shots, hits, and blocks, Seth Jones can actually be pretty decent, so if you can get a good deal for Seth Jones, I suggest you do it. Finally, we have Adam Larsson of the Seattle Kraken. This is only an option in Banners League, so leagues that heavily value shots, hits, and blocks. The reason for this is because Larsson is not a guy that's going to put up a ton of points, and if your league doesn't count those, then he doesn't have a lot of value. The reason he's on this list for the people that are in Banners Leagues is because he currently has 0 goals and 2 assists in 16 games, which puts him on an 82-game pace of 0 goals and 9 points. This would be the worst season of his career, so he should bounce back. He has scored 8 goals in each of the seasons he has played on the Kraken, so I am expecting him to score some goals soon. Like I said, only a Banners League and probably a deeper league as well, but certainly a guy that I do expect to bounce back. We also have 2 players that are currently slumping. I wouldn't say they're officially buy low players because if you're looking at the numbers, I'm not expecting some crazy bounce back. Their shooting percentages are still pretty high. This was most likely due to regression, but you might be able to get some value by trading for them, so send out some offers, maybe it could work out. Rasmus Dahlin and Shea Theodore, 2 points in the last 7 games. Pretty bad, so yeah. Try and see if you can get creative and trade for one of these guys. Next up, we have buy low goalies. And what I do want to tell you guys is that some of the options on this list are probably my favorite buy low options in this whole video. The reason I say this is because the caliber of goalies involved and also the fact that goalies are such a scarce position. So definitely consider trading for these goalies. To start this off, let's talk about Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. Right now, he has a 3.28 goals against average and a .907 save percentage. In my opinion, this is not sustainable, guys. His career averages are nothing close to this, so I expect these numbers to improve. He's been one of the best goalies in the past 3 years, so definitely trade for Sorokin. This is also a guy that's splitting starts with Varlamov right now. People might be panicked and they might not understand that Varlamov is not going to steal starts from Sorokin for long. So if you can buy low on a guy like Sorokin, who's supposed to be one of the best goalies in the NHL, you absolutely need to do so. Next up, we have UC Saros of the Nashville Predators, and this might be one of my favorite buy low situations right now. First off, he is a notoriously slow starter. If you're looking at historical data, the months of October and November are Saros' worst months. And then after that, he starts to pop off. So in my opinion, this is just a pattern that we like to track, and he will bounce back. I know the Predators are not the greatest team, but in the last 2 seasons, according to Yahoo default scoring, Saros has been the best goalie in points leagues. Right now, he has a 3.23 goals against average and a .892 save percentage. It's nothing close to his career averages, so I expect him to get back to normal and still be a very valuable fantasy goaltender. So like I said, buy low on him before it's too late. Next up, we have Darcy Kuemper of the Washington Capitals. And I don't have a lot to say about Kuemper because I'm not the highest on him for the rest of the season, but I do think you're going to get pretty good value for him right now, and I do think he's going to bounce back. There's 2 reasons I think Kemper's going to bounce back. The first reason is that last season he was pretty good on the Capitals. He had a .909 save percentage, much higher than it is right now, so I do think these numbers are going to come back to normal. It's not like the Capitals had a really good team last year either, so definitely think those numbers are going to come back to normal, like I said. The second reason is that the Capitals are actually pretty decent in the standings right now. They're not as bad as some people thought earlier on into the season, so Kuemper could still see some solid wins. The one thing I will say is that Kuemper is currently injured. He left practice with an undisclosed injury, so that is something to keep an eye out for. I wouldn't necessarily buy low on him until we get that news. If it's something serious, then maybe you don't want to trade for him, but that is something to keep an eye out for. Next up, we have Filip Gustavsson of the Minnesota Wild, and this one is pretty clear. He has a 4.64 goals against average and a .872 save percentage. Absolutely terrible numbers, but they're not sustainable. I understand that last year may have been an outlier season for him, but there's no denying that he was absolutely incredible on a very similar team. I don't think Gustavsson forgot how to play goalie, and I do expect these numbers to significantly bounce back and for him to eventually become the #1 starter again on the Minnesota Wild. Fleury is about to be 39 years old, and I don't think he is going to be able to manage a full workload, so this is going to give Gustavsson the opportunity to be the #1 starter. And like I said, you don't go from being a goalie with a 2.10 goals against average to a 4.64 goals against average in one season. He will bounce back, guys. If you need a goalie, add him and be patient. I do expect him to bounce back. I could be wrong, but these numbers are not sustainable, like I said, so buy low on Filip Gustavsson. Finally, as you guys can see, I had Stuart Skinner on this list, but I had to cross him out. He just got another W tonight, played against the Kraken, played pretty well. His numbers should still bounce back, but you're not going to get a good price for him, so good luck with trying to buy low on Stuart Skinner. If you somehow on your waiver wire, definitely add him because he has complete control of this Oilers team and the net, and they are going to bounce back. Next up, we have some injured players that could be great buy low options. Obviously, when a player is injured, their value decreases, so you may be able to get a pretty good price for these guys. Another thing to consider is that if an owner that has any of these players is struggling, they may want immediate help. If you're doing good in the standings and you're feeling confident in your team, it's definitely worth it trading for a guy like Tage Thompson. You can put him on your IR for a couple of weeks, and then when he comes back, your team's going to be even better. So definitely take that into consideration. Just to list these off, guys, we have Nico Hischier, Adam Fox, Andrei Vasilevsky, Brandon Montour, Tage Thompson, and Igor Shesterkin. All amazing buy low options in my opinion. Just quickly, I want to talk about players that I do not think are buy lows, players that I snubbed off of this list. You'll see here I have 2 categories. The first category is shooting percentage is not low. This basically means that these players, their shooting percentage is pretty sustainable and they're still not producing, so definitely not a good sign. We have Chris Letang, Brent Burns, Jonathan Huberdeau, Jamie Benn, Nikolai Ehlers, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Shane Gostisbehere, and Hampus Lindholm. It's not like we have the math to show that they're going to bounce back, so I'm not sure how much their production is going to increase. And a lot of these players are not on the first line power play either, so just guys that I wouldn't necessarily trade for at the moment. I do like Pierre-Luc Dubois because he's on the first line power play on the Kings, but like I said, the shooting percentage is not that low, so not too sure about Pierre-Luc Dubois at the moment. Then we have the section about the players that should bounce back a bit because of their low shooting percentage. but I hate their deployment, so I wouldn't necessarily trade for them. Tyson Barrie, Mikhail Sergachev, Tony DeAngelo, and John Klingberg. Barrie, Sergachev, and Klingberg have 0 goals, so expect that to change. Tony DeAngelo has a pretty low shooting percentage as well, so expect that to come back to normal. But with these, you basically have Tyson Barrie on the second line power play, Sergachev on the second line power play, DeAngelo only getting 16 minutes a game, and Klingberg taking off that first line power play. So really concerned about these players' deployment. The last thing I want to talk about is trade suggestions. Some of you in my last buy low video were commenting, hey, can you give me some sell high players or some players that I can trade away for these buy low targets? And what I want to say is that it's pretty hard to do because there's so many buy low players, and it also depends on a wide variety of factors. So it depends on how many teams are in your league, and it also depends on your league settings. It's hard to give specific advice to such a broad audience. So what I want to tell you guys to do is comment below a buy low target that you want to trade for and list off some of the players that you're willing to trade away for this buy low target, and maybe I could help you out. And also here, you guys can see right here, these are the players that I think are sell high options. Their shooting percentages are way too high. Even though they might have good seasons, their production is currently unsustainable. So if you have any of these players, try trading them for some of these buy low options, and you can comment below and ask me if I think it's a good trade, okay? But anyways, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.